Last night was the Sports Personality of the Year, and Luke Littler became just the second darts player in history to ballot inside the top two. He came runner-up to 800-metre runner Keely Hodgkinson, who won a gold medal at the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. He also picked up the Young Sports Personality of the Year award, becoming the first ever darts player to win such an accolade. Somebody who's been at the Sports Personality of the Year, not nominated, was just an invite because they had nobody else available. Ronnie O'Sullivan probably couldn't make it or something like that. Scott Mitchell is alongside me. First of all, what are those shows like? Because you've been there before, haven't you?
Yeah, they're quite a big occasion. When I went, we had to meet in like a holding hall, which is obviously there's a dress code. So you go to a holding hall. I was in Belfast when it was held, and there's like a pre-show party that starts at about 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. So you sort of go and attend that, and you wander in there and you look around, and every sports star you've ever seen on the TV is generally in and around, sort of like some real legends of the sports, and that's something to get your head round, to think that you're in the same room as them. It's very difficult to think that as a darts person that you're in the room with sort of Formula One stars and famous runners and rugby players and just people that you've seen on the TV over the years. So you have like that sort of pre-party. Then you have a wander up the red carpet. Every person has to wander up the red carpet. And then get your picture taken. And then you go and be seated. All the seats are allocated. And you sit in an allocated seat with your name on the back of the seat. And you sit and wait. And then the show starts to the one that you see on the TV.
Before we talk about Luke, how do you think darts as a sport is recognised in those particular circles? Because I still get a feeling there's a little bit of a stigma attached.
Yeah, you're possibly right. I don't think it's helped that there isn't so much darts on the terrestrial TV channels now. That hasn't helped the sport. But I think it's growing. I think we're down to the similar sort of situation where most sports stars of other sports, or even anybody anywhere, has actually thrown a dart somewhere or another in their life. And they kind of realise how difficult it is to do. But seeing it as a sport is a very different thing. And I try to explain to people, you throw the tungstens for an hour and see what your arm feels like tomorrow morning. And you'll realise that it is a sport, but it's just a different sport in a different way.
Because I remember when Phil Taylor came runner-up in 2010, there was a lot of people saying that he should have been anywhere near the ballot list. I think it was AP McCoy, wasn't it, that won that particular year? And they said, well, why is a sport where all you do is throw something at a board anywhere near recognition? But it feels like maybe now things are just a little bit different with what Luke's done.
I think a lot of it is to do with what Luke's done. I think he's brought a newfound sort of fame to it again. I think it probably started this run with Fallon back 5 years ago, winning games for the first time at Ali Pali. But Luke has then taken it to another level, because I think darts was classed as an old man sport, an older person sport. Nobody'd really seen younger players doing exceedingly well at the game. And when Luke came along and did what he did last year, he opened up new boundaries and I think made kids want to play darts.
To be nominated for an award of that prestige, and you think about some of the other people he was up against Jude Bellingham, for goodness sake, just to name an example of some people. Joe Root, England's possibly greatest ever batter, one of the greatest ever batters we've ever had. He was in circles with people that are probably some of the most recognisable faces, not just in sport, but perhaps some of the most recognisable faces in the United Kingdom. First of all, does that show what kind of year he's had, but also what kind of impact he's had on the sport?
I think it's two things. I think, yes, he's had a massive impact on the sport. I mean, when he did what he did last year, I've had parents phoning me up of kids going, friends of mine, they've not wanted their kids to play darts when I was winning world championships, but all of a sudden they now want their kids to be playing darts because Luke Littler's done it and seen and shown a particular pathway. Darts academies were opening up all over the place, thinking they were going to get 10 kids maybe to start it off, and they had 50 kids on the first night, you know, and they had 4 boards. They just weren't prepared. So Luke has definitely propelled it to another level for a generation, for an age group. So that means that darts will be in a very good place for a very long time now, because we have this sort of batch between, or we're going to have this batch between sort of 10 and 20 years old that are playing, that maybe wouldn't have even looked at the game had Luke not done what he's done. And I think the second thing is the amount of money that he's won in the game. So the money in darts has gone through the roof. And I think that's why it's now being a little more respected by other sports, because the money is now right up there with other sports and that you compare to. So, and as the money continues to grow, I think that's going to give the sport probably more recognition. It shouldn't be that way because of finances, but I think other sports look over their shoulder and go, wow, you know, I wish we were darts, because darts is pretty much blanket covered for any age group, male or female. It doesn't matter whether you're 60, because you can be in the seniors, right down to youth playing now. We have the World Disability Darts Association as well. So there's no reason that any person cannot play darts. And I think Luke has enhanced the fact that everybody wants to play darts.
But I suppose sports personality as well is, yes, a lot of it goes down to achievements, because look at what the people that have done that got in this year. Keely Hodgkinson was the only person in athletics to win a gold medal at the Olympic Games in Paris, which is probably why she won the award. You then have Joe Root, who's had another outstanding summer with the bat. Jude Bellingham won a Champions League with Real Madrid. He got England to the final of the European Championships in the summer. So yes, there's that massive element that has to be because of what you've done on a sporting level. But just by the token of the name, sports personality, you need to have that latter as well. And I suppose that's where Luke really does fall into that category.
Yeah, well, since what's happened to him last year, I mean, the first thing is, had he have won the World Championship last year, would they have been able to give it to anybody else? And I think the answer is probably no. I know that Keely won it, for winning a gold medal. But I think had he have won the World Championship, I think he'd have won the award and that. But the personality side of things, I think it's a side of things that for a young man, he hasn't changed his personality in any way, shape or form. I've known him for a long time. And for him to come out and be just the Luke that I know, I bumped into him just a few weeks ago doing an exhibition with him, and he hasn't changed. He hasn't changed one iota. And I think the amount of money that has been thrust at him, the amount of publicity that's been thrust at him, for him not to change too much over that takes a really special person, because it really is easy to get your head in the clouds and start to be somebody you're not. And he just hasn't done that. So his personality for me hasn't changed. And where do you see him? He's cropping up on TV shows, you know, Formula One paddock. He's just popping up everywhere with all the big sports stars. So his personality has been able to shine through. But I think has quite a shy personality, and I think that's what makes people like him, that he stays down to earth.
Is he almost lost in terms of, we look at the modern sports person, and a lot of people make accusations they're media trained sometimes. We don't see personality, where maybe there was a time about 20 years ago, 30 years ago, definitely 40 years ago, when you had characters like George Best in football, you had characters like Alex Higgins in snooker, even go forward to the 1990s where you had similar characters like Jimmy White in snooker. Obviously you had players within the sport of darts that had big personalities, big characters, even in rugby and in other sports. It's felt like Luke has become something that maybe has been in recent times lost a little bit.
Yes, but I think the media training and the way, I'm saying that Luke has been media trained, he won't have been, but you watch other stars saying the right things at the right time now, and it's made everybody a little bit samey. So I think as you grow up watching these people, you start to know exactly what to say and how to react. So yes, we are losing the characters, because it doesn't seem to be so PC to be, have your own opinion anymore. It's more PC to say what you want people to hear, what you think people want to hear, and I think most sports stars get dragged into that, and I think we are losing the characters in the game because of it, but they're still there behind the scenes. Their character doesn't change, but maybe as a public persona, all sports have changed, not just darts.
And I suppose as well, how do I paraphrase this? He's got a no something's given approach, hasn't he? There's a perception that it means a lot to him, but he goes out there as if it means nothing. He's just sat in his front room just having a throw.
Yeah, well, look, we saw him here at the Super Series just over a year ago winning stuff, and his dad running up onto the stage and giving him a big cuddle. It was that sort of amounts of money were massive amounts of money to him back then. And now he's winning loads more than that every time he goes out. He probably gets the money that he earned here just for turning up half the time. So, things change, but I think the fact of the matter is he doesn't play for the money. He's very Phil Taylor-like. Phil Taylor never played for the money. Lovely to have the money, but once you've got it, the money doesn't motivate you anymore. So if you're a money-motivated player, you don't last for very long. And I think Luke's fully aware of that. So he's always been about the trophy. He sees a trophy and goes, "Oh, yeah, I would like to have that trophy or my name on that." And he's creating goals for himself. And I think as long as he stays like that and the money isn't the motivator, I think he has a really long future in the game.
What do you think the knock-on effect of him being involved in an award like that, finishing runner-up, could have won it, won the Young Sports Personality of the Year? What do you think the knock-on effect for the sport can be?
I think the knock-on effect from the sport really started happening after the World Championships last year and ended up why he's getting nominated. I mean, there was times where you could not buy a dartboard in this country. March, April last year, I ordered dartboards for my local club every year and this, that and the other. They just weren't there. There were no dartboards because everybody had taken off and gone into the sport anyway. So I think his legacy, if you like, would have been what happened after the World Championship and the 2024 that he's had. And it's really culminated in the sports personality stuff. But to have that on terrestrial TV and a dart player picking up the runner-up at the sports personality, it can only help the sport. It can only help people come back to watching it. Because it's not always on terrestrial TV and hasn't been for a while, a lot of people think that darts has gone away. So Luke has done something to many sort of armchair fans to make them realise, yes, it's still about. Yes, it's in a very healthy place.
Do you think that's an important thing that's been forgotten somewhat? Maybe people that, look, darts is always going to have a very strong hardcore of supporters. I think that's been very evident, and there's a lot of people that maybe will tune in for the World Championship, but maybe there's another breed of supporter that maybe hasn't tuned out the sport, and maybe Luke Little is the person that's just bringing it back into perspective.
Yeah, I think so. I think that is the case. I know myself personally that there's hardcore fans that the PDC run the Premier League these days, and a lot of people don't always tune into the Premier League every week. But once Luke was in it last year, everybody started tuning in again and not missing a week because they wanted to see what he was doing, what he was up to after that brilliant World Championship run. So, yes, I believe that he has brought fans back to the game and back watching, and maybe ones that haven't watched, for a couple of generations. Some
of the big names that he's got on his shirt are the like of which that we've never seen in the sport before, particularly one of them. Is it the drip down effect now that we need to see as a consequence of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this one particular sponsor you're talking about is what I would call a generation sponsor. There's a certain age you generally are to be associated with this product, and he's right in that bracket of the right age for people to be associated with that product. But it is global product. It's not a UK-based product. It's not a European. It's a global, massive, massive product. And to be associated with that, and to get darts associated with that, that's massive for darts.
What would be the next step with those kinds of global, I suppose, sponsorship deals?
Do you know what? I don't know where it's going to go. I suppose the next thing for Luke is he's got to win one, and then the global sponsors that come in. Well, who knows? Who knows how how long is a piece of string? Where does that go? His image and everything. The problem is once you rise as a star to the top, then obviously people love to help you rise to the top, and our press do tend to want to shoot you down. And I think it just depends on how he continues, one, in the game, and two, how he continues off the board is where we're going to see what sponsors end up on his shirt in 5 years' time.
Still a humble lad from Warrington, though.
Very humble lad from Warrington. I had a conversation with him and his father about a purchase of some sort, and they wouldn't do it because it was too expensive. And you think, the money that you've earned this year, if you were frivolous, footloose, fancy free, you'd have spent it and done it. But they haven't, because they're still that lovable person from Warrington, and they're not trying to live beyond their means. They're living how they've always lived, and I think that's going to stand them in good stead.
Cheers, Scott. Luke Little, runner-up at the Sports Personality of the Year and the winner of the 2024 Young Sports Personality of the Year.